Well, President Biden is heading to California today to survey the damage from weeks of intense storms in the region.
The president will tour some of the hardest hit areas, including along the state's central coastline. The extreme weather has been nearly nonstop since the new year began. Just a barrage of rain, snow, and strong winds have brought with it widespread flooding. And although that weather has slowed, now you've got mudslides, landslides. They're a major concern. So far, hundreds of such slides have been triggered across the state.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is there at the White House. She joins us now. Nancy, tell us what the White House is doing to help those impacted by the severe weather.
Well, the president has approved several rounds of federal disaster relief for the people who are struggling in California. Just yesterday, he approved another tranche that will essentially enable the federal government to pay for 100% of debris cleanup in California for the next 60 days. Any debris that is related to these storms, the flooding, the mudslides. So the federal disaster aid is flowing, and the president is heading to California today because he wants to get a chance to see the damage for himself. This has been a sustained disaster, and the cleanup is going to be sustained as well. So he wants to get a better sense of what is going to be needed from the federal government in the months to come. So he'll actually be flying above the damage in a helicopter with his FEMA director, with the governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom, and he'll also be meeting on the ground with business owners who have been affected and with first responders, just to get a better sense of the scope of this situation and how much assistance is going to be needed in the next few months from the federal government.
And of course, one of the other big topics, Nancy, is, having to now enact these extraordinary measures, this hitting of the debt ceiling. What is the president's strategy in moving forward, considering we know where each side now stands? And just yesterday, I think you were telling us the president knows historically he doesn't need to negotiate, doesn't want to set that precedent. But How might the fact that we're here now and things are happening change things, if at all? The
strategy is to plant a flag to say that the White House and Democrats are not going to be negotiating with Republicans over raising the debt ceiling, something that has to happen based on previous spending. It's not something that benefits either side. And the second prong of that strategy is to paint Republicans as flirting with an economic disaster by even wanting to open negotiations over government spending when raising the debt ceiling is something that needs to be done for spending that has already happened, not new spending that Democrats or Republicans want to do. This is spending that has already been approved by Congress. So the White House is digging in here. For Republicans' part, yes, they now control the House. That gives them a lot more power. It primarily gives them power to stop the president's agenda and to investigate the White House and the federal administration. What it doesn't give Republicans much power to do is to implement their agenda, to pass bills that could potentially make it to the president's desk, because they still don't control the Senate. So they view this standoff as one of very few opportunities that they have to kind of force the White House to the negotiating table to try to extract some things that they want. And in this case, what they really want is to cut federal spending. But what the White House is going to argue, we've heard it a number of times already, is that Republicans didn't seem to have as much problem with government spending when President Trump was in office, when the deficit went up quite a bit, and that when you play with the debt ceiling, you are playing with fire, because you never know exactly how close you have to get to that deadline before the markets get spooked and before credit ratings agencies get spooked as well and start downgrading the credit of the United States.
Yeah. Nancy, you mentioned the White House planting a flag when it comes to this negotiation. We understand that he's also planting a flag in another area. CBS News has confirmed reports that President Biden is likely to announce his bid for re-election not long after he delivers his State of the Union address. So tell us, is that a done deal then?
Well, a date for his reelection announcement has not been set yet, but what I am told is that he is likely to make that announcement sometime not long after he delivers his State of the Union address on February 7th, which sort of makes sense logistically. Typically, a president likes to kind of make a big splash when they deliver their State of the Union address, lay out all their big priorities for the year, then perhaps go on the road and tout those priorities in various cities. And so it would make sense logistically that he would then seek to finally make his announcement that he was running for re-election sometime in the weeks following his State of the Union address. Now, there had been some questions about whether perhaps his re-election bid would be delayed because of the special counsel's investigation that has been launched into his classified documents. But what I'm told is that things are still on track and that we can anticipate that he will announce that he is running for re-election in 2024 sometime, it would seem, in the next month and a half or so.
All right, Nancy Cordes, thanks for all of the interesting updates.
Thank you, Nancy.